There was once a happy man who lived a happy life in the happiest world. But he felt something was missing, a hole in his heart that couldn't be filled. And one day, on his way to a happy day at work, he saw a homeless beggar, waggling a finger at him. He approached the beggar, and the beggar handed him a key. "This key is a very special key. Once you find the door that it unlocks, you'll have everything that you will ever need. A perfect woman, perfect household, a perfect family. I have been there many, many times, and I have been satisfied with what I have found. They gave me food, shelter, and happiness, even pleasure, all when the man of the house was away. You look like you need to get away, so take it." The beggar walked away without another word, leaving the man to his own. He held the key, and with his greed, he walked away. Away from work, away from family, all to find what door it unlocked. And in a month, he lost his job. Within 5, he lost his family. And within a year, he lost everything. But still he looked, hoping to find the door that it unlocked. But never did he find it. He went back to his old house one day, tired and sad, and he looked on to the dilapidated house in the corner of the street. His house. And he saw his door. And then he got curious. And he walked up to the door, hand shaking, and put in the key. And to his dismay, it clicked. This all started Saturday night. No, I'm kidding. This started months ago. But it wasn't until that night that it really started. We all had our first fight. Yet Grace, my serious girlfriend of 4 years, decided that we were no longer compatible. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was when she invaded my privacy and snooped through my phone. The nerve that she has. Anything that she found in there is inadmissible. It was private. She would have never felt hurt if she had respected my privacy. So what if I had a little fling? Guys my age do it all the time and their wives don't say a thing. But then again, we never did get married. I guess that was our saving grace. Pun intended. Because this whole relationship has been a joke. She's become useless as soon as we moved in together. And that's what I said to her face. Now, she slapped me, like I even felt that, and stormed off to our bedroom. The insignificant bitch better not touch anything I own. I followed her up there and I saw her ready to smash her picture of us. "You put that down," I warned. "What does it matter?" she said. "If this breaks, it will just match everything else." And then she flung it to the floor, shattering the glass as the photo fluttered onto the bed. And that's when I lost it. I lunged at her, ready to kill. But instead, I just threw her back. Now, that's all I did. And of course, she had to be dramatic and fall against the wall. Now, I couldn't stand her theatrics anymore, and so I just left. I got in my car and I just drove for hours. And when I got home, there was no leftover dinner. All of the lights were still on, and she was still asleep in our bed, her back turned towards me like an insult. But I was tired. Too tired to care, and climbed into my side of the bed. And we didn't say a word to each other. And then I drifted off into a peaceful morning. Monday morning, I woke to my alarm at 6 a.m., and as I rolled out of bed, I noticed that Grace was still asleep next to me. I was reminded of my rage, and I got ready as quickly as I could and rushed out the door. I didn't need to ruin a perfectly good day. So I stopped at my favorite cafe for a coffee and sandwich. The cashier smiled and was so friendly. Why couldn't Grace be more like that? At work, I smiled and I greeted everyone. This is how normal people act. Everyone is so friendly and cordial as I walked up to my cubicle. What a great day to be alive. And around 10 o'clock, Jen came by with homemade macaroons for everybody. She went from desk to desk and everybody was so happy. Why couldn't Grace be happy like that? But I instantly forgot about her as I tried one of those cookies, and it was absolutely bliss. Before I knew it, it was 5 and my day was over. And back to the nightmare it was. My drive home was nothing but stupid drivers and frustration. The perfect waiting pool to acclimate yourself before the impending doom that was my home life. But as I entered the house, it was actually quiet. The house was still, almost stale. And I couldn't tell if she hadn't done anything all day. I walked up the stairs and looked down the hall, and she was still sleeping. "Oh, poor baby," I said aloud, hoping that she'd hear me. And then, without another thought, I went back downstairs and I made myself a ham sandwich. I had just finished making it and was sitting down at the dining room table when my right ear heard a whisper. "Poor baby." It was Grace's voice. Now, she definitely startled me and I turned around quickly in her reaction. But when I looked up, she was already gone. Great. Not only is she pissed, but now she's playing games with me. I knew this tranquility was a farce. Our house was not a home for peace. And throughout the rest of the night, she kept doing this immature thing of sneaking up on me, saying some forgettable words, and then scurrying away. Honestly, who does that? She's a grown woman acting like a child. I guess it's all the more reason to feel justified. After avoiding her for almost 5 hours, it was time for bed. And wouldn't you know it, she beat me there again. Once again with her back to me, and that was another insult. Without a word, I climbed into bed like last night, turned off the lamp, and entered into a well-deserved restful sleep. 6 o'clock, Tuesday. My alarm blared again, and what a great day to be alive. I snuck out of bed and I got dressed silently. I dare not wake that dragon of a woman. Why subject myself to that and ruin my whole day? And so I repeated my routine. The girl at the cafe was wearing a slightly lower top today, and I'm sure that was for me. She always smiles at me. At work, security was kind. A coworker held the elevator for me, and the meeting went well, and I solved a Sudoku in record time. I really did have a wonderful day. But of course, like every day, it couldn't last forever. Opening the front door to my house was like opening a mausoleum. Ancient air full of history flooded my sinuses, and it just made me sick. God, this place makes me really want to vomit. And as I walked in, I smelled something cooking. Did Grace actually do her job for once? Maybe she wasn't completely useless. I rounded the corner into the kitchen, and I didn't see anything. And then I went a little further into the dining room, and I saw a perfect plate of spaghetti and meatballs. And I was completely set aback. Had Grace really done this? Did she actually have dinner ready for me at the table when I come home from work just how I like it? She must have come to her senses and seen things my way. I wasn't about to wait for her. I pulled out a chair and I started to chow down. And you know what? It was delicious. And as I was forking up another heap into my mouth, I heard Grace speak from behind me. "How do you like your worms?" And I chuckled at her question. I've never heard anyone call spaghetti And I cut myself off as I saw lengthy night crawlers slithering in my bowl. They were on my fork, some bitten in half. I was eating them. What the fuck, Grace? What's wrong? What's wrong with you? And then she cackled at me, and not just a laugh, but a maniacal cackle. She was enjoying this. I reached onto the tablecloth, and when I looked up, all I saw was normal pasta. The same thing as when I had sat down. What the hell? I asked nobody, and when I turned, Grace had already left. Back to our bedroom, her little sanctuary. It took me a minute to get my bearings, but when I did, I was pissed as ever. How dare she play that prank on me? The audacity! I decided to cool off with a few beers and mind-rotting television before confronting her about the worst meal of my life. But when I went up to our room, again, she was asleep. Or at least pretending to be. With her back towards me. Another cold night. I had enough. Plenty, really. I just took up the blankets next to her and drifted off into dreamland. And it is so much better when I think that I'm somewhere else. That night I dreamed my horse won at the betting track. Wednesday morning started off mostly the same. My alarm woke me up at 6, got a shower, and dressed all while Grace was still in bed. And as I headed down the stairs towards the front door, something in my peripherals caught my eye. One of the kitchen cupboard doors was open. I hate this. Like, it's a pet peeve. It really pisses me off. And Grace knows that too. Just shut the damn door after opening it. This was absolutely a malicious act on her part. And so I left the house in a rage. And that day at the coffee shop, the line was extra long. And I was almost late to work because of it. And when I got to work, everyone was tense. A deal was struck from the higher-ups and cuts had to be made. Well, cuts to other people. The lesser people. My numbers had always been impeccable. I didn't have to worry, but I don't have time to worry about others. The way I see it is that any of their losses can be my gain. Maybe I won't be stuck in middle management much longer. And the future was looking bright. It's sad, though, we won't be getting as many baked goods. But I still managed to have a great day. Wait, that wasn't until it was time to go home. Because I was stuck in a traffic jam this day for 45 minutes. Completely unacceptable. I swear, doesn't the world know that everything revolves around me and it just pisses me off? When I finally got home, I was just ready to eat a warm meal and plop in front of the TV. But of course, that wasn't an option. Because as I walked in around the corner, I saw something off about the kitchen. And as I walked closer, I saw that every single cupboard was open and every single drawer had been pulled out. And my blood boiled. Oh, you think you're funny, huh? You think you're cute? I'm so fucking done with you! I yelled upwards towards the bedroom where I knew that she was. And in return, she yelled back down, I'm not done with you! And I slammed every single door and drawer shut, grabbed a TV dinner from the freezer and slammed that shut too, just as I did with the microwave. And that night, I slept on the couch. Thursday morning, I awoke with my neck killing me. This stupid couch. I wanted to get the overstuffed one. I waved my arm around until I found my phone and silenced the alarm clock. I kicked off the tiny throw blanket and sat up, rubbing my eyes. It's okay. I still had my morning of solitude and a nice day of work ahead of me. I could forget about this place. All I had to do was get my work clothes on and then I'd be away from here. But it couldn't be that easy, could it? On the dining room table sat my dinner from last night. My dinner that I had to make myself. I marched up those stairs. I didn't care if she wanted to pretend to be asleep. I screamed at her, if you could manage even one thing in your stupid little head, clean up this fucking mess. It's starting to smell. And then I turned on my heel and I exited the house. I skipped to the coffee shop, double parked at work, and walked past security, and I kept my head low as I went to my cubicle. And I barely did any work. I didn't socialize. My entire focus was overcome by my rage. I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell her that she needs to leave. Because that's it. She needs to go away. This house is in my name. We're not married. She has to go, and I don't care where. And I drove home with purpose, deliberately making every turn like a robot. I pulled into the driveway, walked past the rain-soaked newspaper, and barged through the front door. I was ready to scream, but was distracted by the egg timer ringing. It was in the kitchen, I could tell. And I was going to disregard it in my anger and my mission, but as I walked to the stairs, I couldn't help but look at our kitchen. All of the lights were on in there. And there was ketchup, mustard, barbecue sauce, you name it. It was all smeared and sprayed, squirted, covering the whole room, the cabinets, the counter, the floor, even the fucking ceiling. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I walked over and I turned off the timer, and as I looked around, I saw that the dining room chairs were knocked over, pictures were on the floor, lamps were knocked over, and every piece of mail and paper littered the floor. You gotta be kidding me. Is this because I asked her to clean up? I couldn't look at her. Let her stay in her little dungeon upstairs. I decided that the better option was the bottle. I had slammed about 4 shots in a row before my body made me step back. And then I stumbled to the fridge and I grabbed a beer. I gripped the door frame and I guided myself to the living room. I flung myself on the sofa, cracked open the beer, and I watched some garbage TV and drank until I eventually passed out. And I tossed and turned under the tiny throw blanket until I awoke just before 3 a.m. What was that? I thought in a groggy delirium. Then, as if to answer my thought, I heard 3 loud bangs above me. What the hell? I sat up, fully attentive, and I realized that I was hearing footsteps. Stomping. Not just walking. And I knew what it was. What she was doing. She must have gone into the closet, found her big, clunky winter boots, and was deciding to march a little spite parade above me. And all while I slept, while she knows damn well that I have work in the morning! How could anyone be so disrespectful? And to me. Me! The stomping, the pacing back and forth inside the guest bedroom above me, it grew faster and faster until I screamed. No words, just frustration manifested. And then it stopped. It just stopped. Whatever. I don't care. As long as I can get back to sleep. I took a sip of my stale flat beer and I rolled over on the couch. I never had any trouble falling asleep. Why would you? The day's over. No use caring about what happened. My dreams have always been a perfect sanctuary where my thoughts can play. Well, wouldn't you know it? That night I had a nightmare. The first time since I was a kid, as a matter of fact. I saw myself wandering through my workplace, but the halls and offices seemed to stretch on forever. The overhead lighting was off, but somehow I could still see. I watched myself as I went from a walk to a run to a mad sprint. Was I running to or from something? Then I was in a dark, empty room with a single door. No windows. I was in my body now. And I stood up and I went to open the door, but as I reached for the handle, the door flung open and I was sucked through it like a vacuum. And I was in the sky, falling. The nighttime city lights below me shone like Christmas lights not yet hung up, still in a pile on the floor. The wind scraped my face and those lights got closer and closer. And I saw the top of a tree coming towards me, and then the nightmare landed me in a pile of filth. Garbage, sludge, excrement, yesterday's news. And with a vomit-inducing splash, I was now neck-deep in this wretched filth. It was in my eyes, in my nose, and in my mouth. I reached for anything to hold on to, but all my waving arms could find were loose, putrid coagulations. And I kept bobbing up and down like a sort of top, swallowing more and more sewage each time. And then I heard it. It was quiet at first, but while I tried to look up and see the sky, it reached me. Laughter. This horrible laughter. There wasn't a sky either, just a shell blackness. No stars, no moon, only mocking laughter. Make it stop. Please, just make it stop. Please, please, just stop. Just, please, just get me out of here. Make it stop! And I woke myself screaming. It was just a dream. Just a dream. But that laughter, was that Grace's laughter? And I didn't have time to think. It was 9:50 on a Friday, and I was almost 3 hours late. Wait. Oh, fuck the meeting! Heart still pumping and out of breath, I scrambled and I threw myself together as quick as I could, jumped in my car, and I nearly killed an old lady speeding to the office. I burst through the door, ignoring everyone, and I started spamming the elevator button. Come on, come on. And finally, the doors opened and too many people came in. They better not have a floor before mine. I stumbled while standing and everyone looked at me. Oh shit. Fuck, was I still drunk? Fuck, no matter. There's nothing that I haven't been able to smooth over before. The elevator dinged and I squeezed through the doors before they finished opening. I ran towards the meeting that I was late to. I disregarded the receptionist and I plowed through the door. Hey, everyone, sorry. I am so sorry that I'm late. What do you think that you're doing? My boss stared daggers at me. And he looked me up and down and said, wait for me in my office. This couldn't be good. And I sat in that huge room with a desk, 2 chairs, and a lot of taxidermy animals. Then my boss came in after about 15 minutes and sat with a grunt. Just look at you. Did you even look in the mirror this morning? I knew that I didn't, but I couldn't really look that bad, could I? Here we have a certain standard. A standard that we hold for all employees, from myself down to the intern fetching coffee. You are not meeting that standard. I'm sorry, I rebutted. I had a rough night, some family emergency. It's not just today. This is the last straw. Your numbers are down, your performance is crap, and you're just not reliable. And then my boss looked out the window and then back at me. Placing you on a month's suspension. But sir, I tried, but he lunged back. You be glad that I don't fire you right here and now. Now you get out of here. And you take a shower for Christ's sake. You smell like hell's sewer. Yes, sir. I shanked away, bothered by that last statement. I knew who I could blame for this. And so I drove home in a frenzy, running stop signs and cutting off school buses, and then I almost crashed into the garbage. I entered our house, my house, and I slammed the door shut. I walked past the condiment graffiti kitchen and went straight for the bottle, no glass this time. I brought it with me to the living room, pushing aside the empty cans, and I turned on the TV. I could not see Grace right now. I just couldn't. There's no saying what I might do. Instead, I turned on the sports ball game, and after a while, the sun went down, and I was almost distracted by it when the power went out. You've got to be kidding me. I got up and I noticed that the street light's on outside. Must be the breaker. So I went down through the kitchen to the back door, and at a little landing, there was the basement stairs. It was pitch black, so I pulled out my cell phone for its flashlight and I started down the steps. A few steps down and something tripped me, and I almost lost my balance and I slid down the rest of the steps with a leg folded behind me. And with a slam, the ground stopped me and I had to catch my breath before I could curse. And after a minute, I got up, relatively unharmed, and I searched for my light for the breaker. And upon finding it, I limped over and opened the door and I started examining the wires. Hey, baby. I jumped. It was Grace right next to me in the pitch black dark. God, what the hell is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? That's a laugh. Do you even know what you look like right now? Aside from a scared little mouse. What's the matter? Have a bad night's sleep. She had never talked to me like this before. And frankly, I couldn't believe it. Have you lost your mind? What are you doing? And then something clicked. Were you waiting down here to trip me? So what if I was? Her smug composure was boiling my blood. Oh, I'm done playing your games, girl. In fact, we are done. That's right, we're over. I don't know why we ended up together anyways. You don't remember? Grace gave a rhetorical pause, her voice filled with fire and anguish. 5 years ago, we had everything laid out before us. I was fresh out of college and you were settling into your father's business, and we were so happy. Or at least I thought that we were. You didn't drink back then. And I wasn't drowning in sadness. Not all the time. You weren't like the others. You were sharp and full of promise. We had plans and dreams and a whole list of things that we would do together. And then your brother got the job that you thought that you deserved. And something in you snapped that day. And whatever it was, it never healed, did it, babe? Your father broke you piece by piece, and I tried. God, did I try, but I couldn't put you back together. But it was never enough. I was never enough. I put you on a pedestal, and I worshipped the idea of you, and what did I get in return? A harsh word here, a shove there, and a trip to the dentist, where I had to lie through my broken smile about how I chipped my tooth. I gave you everything, and never once did you stop to think about what that would cost me. That maybe, just maybe, you should have tried to. No. Every failure, every frustration, every ounce of rage that you carried, you threw it at me instead. The perfect, willing punching bag. And I hope it helped. I hope I was therapeutic. So no, you don't get to just leave. I have other plans. Oh, like hell you do, bitch! And I went to swing my arm at her. But as I did, she swiped her hand across the breakers, plunging us into darkness. And I dropped my phone, the only light, and it was thrown back into the cement wall. And then I felt Grace grab me by the collar, and she slammed me into the wall over and over. My head smacked the bricks, and I almost lost consciousness when I shoved her away and I fell to the ground. I scrambled for my phone light, and I clawed up the stairs, slamming the door behind me, and I locked it. I turned and I walked backwards as the doorknob was turning and fidgeting. "I'm not done with you," Grace said in a haunting sing-song voice from the other side of the door. "Leave me alone!" I yelled as I ran to the upstairs. I wanted to be as far away from her as I could. I opened our bedroom and there she was. Already there. Lying in bed. With her back facing towards me. "I'm done. I give up. You gotta leave. I don't want you here anymore. I'm going fucking crazy and you're starting to stink and leak onto the bed. I'm just gonna have to throw out the whole fucking mattress. You need to leave right fucking goddamn now." And I pulled out my phone and I dialed.
911, what's your emergency?
"Hi. I'd like to report a murder. I killed my wife. No, she's definitely not breathing. I shot her in the head Sunday night. I don't have the weapon now." Yes, that's the right address. No one else is in the house. It's just us. And I let the phone drop to my side. This was giving up. But this was freedom. My escape. And I yelled into the empty house, at her corpse, at an entire wasted life. We're done. And now you're leaving. And I'm gonna go away. And that's when the room suddenly felt freezing. And my phone died. And I was flung back into pitch black. And prickling the hairs in my ear with an icy breath were the words, "I'm not done with you." And the bedroom door slammed shut. People ask me, "Where do you get your ideas?" And I tell them, I inherited my ability to tell a good story from my old grandma. We called her Grandma Stitch because she was always knitting with those long needles, clickety-clack. She made jolly people out of wool, something her mother taught her when she was very young. And that was her talent, knitting. That and telling amazing horror stories. Stories that would leave you gaping and raw. the stuff that nightmares are made out of, tumbling from the gummy mouth of a sweet old lady. Grandma Stitch told us words were imps. You had to chew on them to make them behave, then spit them into people's ears. But spitting them out wasn't enough because, in Grandma's words, people were made of two things: shit and holes. Words went in holes, but there was usually too much shit in there for them to stay, so they'd just leak out of their holes again. You had to stop the leaking. You had to keep the words in. You had to bung up the holes. She was an earthly sort, Grandma. She didn't mince her words. Back during the war, Grandma was a refugee. Great Gramps and Great Grammy sent Grandma to live in the country where she'd be safe from the Blitz. She lived in a place that she called the House on Horrible Hill, an old farm where she shared living quarters with 20 other children. The farmer and his wife were tyrants who used the children as slave labor, working them in the fields from dusk until dawn, thrashing them if they failed to work hard enough, or even locked them in an old damp cellar to punish them if they were caught stealing food or slacking off. The children couldn't send out letters either. Parents were told that the post office was too distant. Only telegrams were allowed, obviously censored by the farmer and his wife. Sometimes the kids got telegrams back, but mostly the farmer and his wife kept any replies and hid them for no other reason, apparently other than to make the children's lives even more miserable. And one day, Grandma and a bunch of other children formed a rebellious posse, broke into the drawing room where they knew that their farmer's wife stashed the telegram, and liberated a stack of replies from the parents. One of these telegrams was a message for Grandma. A short, officious statement informing her that Great Gramps and Great Grammy had been killed, buried under rubble by an exploding bomb and then burned to death in the subsequent fire. And I have since visited one of the other children, grown old and frail like so many of her generation. A woman called Sally. She remembered Grandma Stitch and was one of the kids who helped her steal back the hidden telegrams.
Your grandmother read the telegram and then turned to us and said, in a quite calm tone of voice, "Words are imps." Then she screwed the telegram into a little ball and popped it into her mouth and just chewed it and swallowed it up. And when we asked her why, she told us that she needed to keep the story inside forever.
These words would prove all the more chilling to me long after Grandma Stitch had passed on, leaving me with unanswered questions about that early period of her life. On a holiday in the Peak District, I sought answers, visiting the site of the House on Horrible Hill and the place where Grandma set some of her best horror yarns. Only a tumble-down stack of granite remained where the farmhouse once stood. After the war, the farm had stood derelict, and in the interceding years, nature had reclaimed what remained and the fire had finally finished off the old building sometime in the 70s. In a local library archive, I found a newspaper clipping which I keep to this day. It reminds me that stories are powerful, that words are imps. You'd have to chew on them to make them behave. More than anything, it reminds me that people are full of shit. And holes. The farmer and his wife were found by a local constable investigating rumors of a terrible smell coming from inside the house. And there they were, sitting at the kitchen table. The constable described the scene. Two human beings covered entirely in close-fitting woolen outfits, knitted shut over their heads and feet. And jolly faces stitched upon them. Needles were driven deep into their ears, like horns protruding, to keep the words in. The wool was snipped away with scissors, revealing the once people underneath. All of the holes were stitched shut. And when they unpicked the stitches, every orifice was stuffed full. Not wool this time. The article didn't specify, but I could guess. Because people were made of two things. I keep the newspaper article in the same place that I keep Grandma's collection of jolly woolen dolls. Because for some reason, they make me smile.